So welcome all, welcome to IT Learn. This is the session where we wanted to introduce you to the career building in mobile app testing. Thank you for being here. I have along with me Zenobia, and this is myself Karthik. We both together wanted to give you kind of an idea about where this industry is going and what is it that you can expect out of it. So we have a few slides. We wanted to quickly run through it. Before we get started, I wanted to introduce you to Zenobia. Zenobia, welcome to the session.
Thank you very much.
All right, great. So Zenobia brings with her over 13, 14 years of industry experience. She's been primarily working in the software testing, quality assurance for a long time. She has stretched herself through various types of industries, be it healthcare, media, and so on, financials. Now, more lately, she has been working on the mobile applications, and she's seeing how this industry is going, and she's getting into the rhythm of there. And I believe that Zenobia will really guide us as the participants in IT Learn, taking us forward into the right direction. Zenobia, thank you for being here. I appreciate your time.
Thank you.
All right, great. So here is the high-level agenda, folks, that we have presented. We wanted to discuss ideally as to where we are today with the mobile app industry. What are we looking at in future? How is it going to impact really what we are as software testing professionals, be it on a development cycle or a testing life cycle? As you go through, you will also see some things like the criticality of these testings getting addressed. If you want to build a career in mobile app testing, what is it going to be, how are you going to do it, and so on. All right. Towards the end, there are a few frequently asked questions that we want to answer. Plus, we want to keep it interactive between me and Zenobia, and I want to make sure that you have your questions answered as an audience. So audience, please note you're all muted. If you have any comments, questions, please feel free to use the chat to post them there, and I can take it up. All right. So quickly, I will move on to present the current scenario. This is my slide, and then Zenobia, I'm going to hand it over to you for a few more slides going forward, and we can go forward. So primarily, the essence of this slide is to tell you that, listen, guys, we've seen ourselves coming through the mobile application life cycle. We've started with smartphones like the Blackberries of the world. We start seeing that, hey, there could be a certain amount of applications that we could execute on them. We have seen that there is a significant amount of usage, especially on emails. But then we started to move more towards, where's my slide? Let's see. The slide got minimized with this Windows setting that came up. So give me a second, folks. That's not my slide. I have my slide at least highlighted. Let's see. Give it a second, please. Sorry, everyone. Give me a quick second. I'm not sure why this is not showing up on my machine. Worst case, I can have the video switched on to Zenobia. All right, sorry for the small deviation. So what I was trying to drive is we've seen the development of things. The audience has started, the users have started to really say that, hey, what they need and so on. Right from the time we've launched Blackberries and then the iPhones and so on, we started seeing how we could experience the variety of applications that can be accessed. We started to seeing the speed that we see that we could access these apps with. So earlier, even to play an audio file was a great thing on a mobile device, but now we are able to stream live videos, YouTubes, and so many other video-based applications through our 4G speeds. we've started seeing a dramatic increase in the sizes of this display. In fact, iPad mini has tried to reduce its size to something more handheld and so on. There has been a lot of focus in the industry on how things are done. We've seen more people trying to spend more time on the devices, and I would ideally see, hey, is there something that I can do on my mobile? And then I would not try and open my laptop to accomplish the same thing. So that way you see a more set of and a more varied variety of users coming in, especially with kids in this generation. With the younger audience, you will see the dramatic amount of time that they spend on mobile devices. For example, a very simple example is like my mom, who's not from the tech background, she's never used a laptop in her life, started using Skype on an iPad to chat or to do a video conference with me. And then she got so used to swiping on the display that the minute I gave her a laptop, she started to swipe it on the screen, thinking that, hey, the display is going to change the screen with it and not the keyboard. That's the way we've been treating people with the experience on the UI. But more surprisingly is now I bought a HP laptop a few weeks back, which actually has a touch screen along with it being a laptop. So the industry has started to try and identify what the users want and get there. What that means basically is there is an increased amount of focus to develop apps to fit this segment, to get them ready for such a kind of users who are all about UI experience and so on, and make sure that it's working crystal clear. And that is where the entire new industry of mobile application testing is growing. In fact, Zenobia, would love to hear from you on the next few slides, just at a high level on where the application market is going and what's happening there.
Absolutely. You are correct, Karthik. There is tremendous growth in mobile applications today. As we want to share with the audience the type of questions that are of great interest. What is the mobile application market like today? What are some of the trends that we're seeing here? As Karthik discussed, we're seeing variations in different users and how they are using mobile devices both personally and in the enterprise or corporate network. Well, what are we seeing today? We're seeing smartphone growth, smart devices grow at 54% yearly as of 2011 and 2012. The presentation slide that you see here shows you some of the devices that dominate the market today. For example, many of you have heard of Apple, Samsung, as well as Nokia, and there are many other mobile device manufacturers in the market today. Well, there has been a huge shift in the number of volumes of devices that are shipped. For example, the vendor, Apple, as we know, who makes the iPhone, has shipped in the billions, 16.2 billion shipment volumes. Revenue growth of enterprise software and applications will be in the billions, close to 2 billions, as the chart shows you below. So these are just some of the statistics that show the demand for mobile devices, which translates into mobile applications that are used today. I'll turn the next slide over here.
Sure,
and tell you a little bit more about what.
Awesome.
Yes.
And Zenobia, Research in Motion is the company which does BlackBerry. And I believe Nokia, before Apple came into the market, was leading a strong way earlier, and then it's seeing the decline. But more interestingly, it's the Samsung of the world that has really taken over now. And I think they have done an amazing growth there. That also shows that open sourced applications and so on is awesome, right? That's where the industry is going. iTunes is a little bit more closed network.
Very much so. There is a great deal of flexibility in open source operating systems, which is what Samsung bases its operating system on. And that is a part of the broader discussion that's brought forth in the training and the demonstration that we have available in terms of discussions of open source platforms and proprietary platforms. And proprietary platforms are such that have to do with the Apple iOS operating system. Mobile application markets as they look tomorrow, well, this is a huge industry that continues to grow and continues to gain momentum. As you can see here, the number of free and paid mobile applications that are downloaded from the stores worldwide are in 2012 close to 100 billion. By 2020 and 15, we're looking at over 200 billion applications, both paid for and free, that are downloaded. Well, what does that mean in terms of a career in mobile applications market? That means they're looking for individuals who are trained to understand how these mobile applications impact both personal users and corporate or enterprise users. People who are trained in how to test these applications on mobile devices and test them in web applications. So there is a strong trend upward that is not only in the amount of applications that are being developed, but the trend continues upward in terms of the number of individuals needed to continue to test these applications on these mobile devices in these enterprise networks.
And Zenobia, if we look at, this is where we are currently, and today there is a major shortfall to get the right qualified people with the right skills, just because of the complexity involved in doing the actual testing. It is unlike the mobile, because we have the varied sizes of the mobile devices, we have the varied operating systems, varied native or versus web apps and so on. So there's so much to be done, and that is so significantly different from the direct web-based application testing, correct?
That is correct. There is a huge demand.
And let me go on to the next slide. I'm not sure if this is trying to give the same one, but this is probably talking about the number of paid mobile app downloads, right? Just expanding on what we had here in those black markings. So while it says that not everyone is really paying, but the rate at which even that market is increasing is almost similar.
That's correct.
Awesome. So what I did is I put the slides together, the next few slides, in fact, next two slides, to say I went to Indeed.com and I tried to do a job trends search. And anyone who's attending this webinar or seeing this video of this webinar can look at the same and get their own experience. This talks about, if I search for mobile app testing, if I test for mobile testing or mobile application testing, it will only add to what I'm seeing. But this basically shows the trend that has been for the jobs with the keywords of mobile app testing has grown significantly since the last 3 years. So if I look at what we were in Jan of 2010 to where we are today, humongous growth. This talks about exactly as to which direction we're going in the overall requirement for the kind of jobs for this field. In fact, what I did additionally is I tried to compare it with the trends of QTP or with Selenium. So if you look at QTP, has been a little bit more older skill, but if you look at it for the last 6-7 years, it's been having steady growth, dipping a little bit over the last couple of years because of more open source tools coming into the market. If you look at Selenium, it has the same growth, what you see today from 2007 Jan. That's when it's been really introduced to the market, and it's been growing very consistently, exponentially increasing and so on. But if you look at the numbers, we're looking at about 0.1% of jobs totally are on Selenium. We're looking at here about close to that 0.1%, again, very similar to what we see with Selenium. Uh, but if you look at the mobile app testing, it is about 0.04%. So it is not really there in terms of a QTP or a Selenium, but it is at close to the half point of what a QTP is or what a Selenium is. So in layman terms, for every 10 jobs that I'm seeing on a QTP or a Selenium, there is probably at least 5 jobs just with this keyword of mobile app testing. And that has been a requirement. Today, when I go to clients, when I talk to them, there is not a single client who has not deployed their applications or putting a focused approach on how the applications must behave on the devices. So that talks again a lot about where we are going in this. So audience, I really want you to do this. It's a great fun research. Go to Indeed.com, do your own research, compare how a QTP, a Selenium is doing compared to mobile app testing. Also change the words, do a mobile testing alone, do a few other terms related with it and see how it changes. Just to let you know, mobile testing is the 4th or 5th most in-demand skill across all the IT jobs that you'll find that you would see on Indeed.com. It will be displayed in the trends there. Here's a slide. Zenobia, again, back to you. We're talking about what kind of an impact we're seeing on development and test life cycle because of the increased demand on mobile apps.
Yes, there is. We do want to try to understand what the impact is on the software development life cycle and how this impacts the software development life cycle. And it comes from the shift in the methodology of the delivery. We have here, as the slide shows you, time to market being a critical factor as we look at the different methodologies on how to deliver the software in a timely manner. Time to market, well, that means simply that there are strong competition out there, and we need to have individuals who are prepared and who are equipped to make sure that the software being developed is not only free of defects and bugs and functioning correctly, but also has met critical timelines in order to successfully meet the needs of the company and get a good return on revenue, because that's what we want to do. Ultimately, it's all about our customers as we become skilled testers. So we have strong competition out there in the market in terms of job creation. We want to make sure that when you head out to the market, you want to make sure you understand what type of tools are available out there to make you a strong competitor in the market, to make you a prepared person on a resume that speak to your skill sets and also speaks to what the company is asking for in terms of skills and in terms of experience. These are the type of things that you want to make sure that you're armed with to be strong in the competition. Because what we're looking at is an always on, or what we like to call a 24/7 market, not just 24/7 market when it comes to mobile devices and mobile testing, but also available anywhere and anytime. And we'll go more into that as we develop more of the information in the curriculum. But anywhere and anytime, as you know, simply sitting down at Starbucks or sitting down at McDonald's and accessing their Wi-Fi, or if you're traveling, make sensitive information and documents and applications available 24/7, available anywhere and at any time. So we want to make sure that we have adaptation to the agile software development process. And just to give you a brief idea of what we mean, or what the term agile means, is simply flexibility. Being agile means that you're required to be flexible, changing with the demands of the software development, making sure that you can meet those demands within a small time frame with as little impact depending on documentation as you can. So we need individuals to understand that the agile methodology is quite in demand in terms of skill set. Yes, it's a very dynamic type of approach that is critical to the software development lifecycle and to the software testing lifecycle as well. It's completely a dynamic methodology for a very dynamic environment. There's strong collaboration and communication daily in an agile environment. You'll find that developers and quality assurance testers collaborate every day simply by meeting one another and having conversations on how they're going to develop this application. What are some of the impediments, some of the issues blocking their development or blocking their testing cycle, and to go forward with the task that they may do the next day and what they have completed the day before. So there's strong communication skills are quite necessary in an agile software development process. These agile environments are far shorter than what we call a waterfall method.
Sure.
And go ahead, Karthik, you can tell us a little bit about what the waterfall method is.
Absolutely. So again, Zenobia, perfect, because the criticality of how agile is spoken today more in conjunction with mobile has been extremely strong. I mean, there's not one project that I see with mobile application testing that is more non-agile. Even if I look at a game development company which is only releasing a version every 3 months or 6 months and so on, they still have to be consistently tapping into the market, the competition, and keeping things changing, while they try and still stick to a product development which is more of a waterfall methodology where it's trickling from one phase to the other, and until it comes all the way down, we're not really starting another parallel waterfall model. They are all trying to migrate to more agile and scrum-based methodologies. So, in fact, Zenobia, I'll come to one question which I'll ask now, but an answer towards the end is, you constantly have these requirements at the current project that you're working, and you speak with so many potential candidates when they're seeking out employment, especially in mobile application testing market. And you could share your experiences and really, give us some insights as to what has really stood out when an individual came and tried to present his or her skill. So probably you could come to that answer as we go along. But quickly, Zenobia, I just wanted to outline the kind of training that we're trying to put together. In fact, at itelearn.com, when you visit the website, you will see a lot of this content is already available as videos. We have not really done kind of a live webinar so far, and that is where I believe Zenobia is a great addition to ITElearn to be able to provide this. What you're seeing is kind of, again, I'm not going to really read through it, is what we're looking at, but just the fact that as you go through each and every topic, how different the entire activity of testing becomes. There are many aspects to it, but the real aspect is how much of hands-on experience you can build. Working in the right direction is what will make you, employable, if I can use the word, in this industry. So while we start with more of how we work with emulators, simulators, an iOS or an Android, and so on, we will eventually go towards the best practices of mobile app testing. We will talk about why is the user interface important, what happens when a user rotates the screen, how is the application supposed to behave, what happens when an application is being when a device is being charged, or a battery is going dead, or a user is coming in and out of a network or a 4G to Wi-Fi and so on. How does your application behave with all these critical changes to the environment? And some of these is also done as part of the field testing. We will also explore automation. I have not really put a specific tool in here because we believe that there's so much that the market is using. We just wanted to take recommendations and try and stick with one good tool or a couple of good tools that we can introduce. Zenobia, did you have any points to add to this previous slide?
Just that, yes, I just want to comment that it is important that these type of focuses be made for mobile web browsing and application emulators. Currently today, in my experience, they are using now real live applications, and emulators are a great way to back up the testing. But most of my experience has been very good in terms of actually having devices that are in your hand and provided. So the companies that I have worked for actually have been moving more toward getting devices and having a pool of devices and using emulators as a backup. So I've found that having live devices has worked very well, as you can find out much more about the device in terms of transmitting data and the various usages of the SIM cards and CMDAs. Yes. Mm-hmm.
Absolutely, absolutely right. So, and that's where I think it is very essential to create a testing lab where you are actually holding these devices. And if you look at anyone in the mobile application, either the development or the testing field, they're typically carrying 4 or 5 devices at the same time. Different versions, different models of the phones, and even I'm sure that you and some of these larger companies get access to products which are even pre-launch. They're not yet in the market, but I started seeing, for example, a Galaxy Note a few years back, even before it started coming into the market, because these manufacturers like an Apple or a Samsung provide these devices to major retailers to get an idea and play around with it and give an early feedback before they do launch. And they need to be
That's
tested
right.
as well.
Yes, that's right. There are pre-launch devices that do come out, what's called beta test devices. And even if you, as an end user, if you are in a store where you can go in and actually place your hand on the devices and begin to play with these devices, or even go to the website and take a look at some of the requirements of the devices, the specifications of what they call specs. This gives me what I call an ability to be ahead of the curve when it comes to my testing, because I know what is coming down the pipe as they continue to develop these platforms, applications, and operating systems for these specific devices.
Right, and I know it's definitely a challenge to be able to get our hands on different types of devices if you're an individual, not really in a project and so on. But again, we could have some solutions and ideas in that direction too. Let me go on to the next slide. Let's see what we have here. So I think more of the advanced concepts and tools which we touched upon a little bit. I'm not sure if there's anything additional you want to add here, please.
This mobile application testing uses a variety of tools, of course, as you had mentioned. There's a lot that's in the industry right now. My experience, as you mentioned earlier, I've been in the field for quite some time, and they have developed quite a few open source technologies. I'm finding the trend now that companies are using some Quality Center, but they are definitely looking at things like Selenium, Jira, and other types of open source platforms, because they are looking to reduce costs, but also continue to leverage the agile methodology and also continue to be flexible. So knowing some of these technologies are quite advantageous for a user. And having information on what we call the back-end knowledge. I found that you don't have to be a database administrator, that learning some of the back-end knowledge is quite easy, and it's not as overwhelming as it may seem to many people. It's simply a matter of knowing how to pass queries and pull information from the tables that are already constructed when you even enter into that particular company. So back-end knowledge is a wonderful piece of the concepts that you would learn and you should learn, as well as terminology. Nothing beats understanding and having the ability to have a conversation about acceptance testing, about what user acceptance testing takes, or UAT, understanding what unit testing is, which happens on the development side, and then also having the ability to have a conversation about system and integration testing, knowing what the alpha state is before a release, understanding what a beta release is, as well as our RC and GA releases. GA meaning general acceptance, when we release that to you, the end user. So these type of terms, these type of tools and platforms are key and core basic things that really get you in the door and really grab the attention. I have found these very effective as I interview people for positions of beginning testers, and they really are an eye-opener in letting me know that they understand what's going on in terms of mobile testing.
In fact, a few minutes back I asked the question as to what you'll really look at in the candidates when they come to apply for these jobs. Looks like this is what it is more like, right? This is the
Yes.
list of what you would expect to see in an individual, not necessarily everything, but at least a major portion of the slide.
Very true, very true. These are definitely core areas, yes.
All right, perfect. So this slide is basically cut out from one of my video sessions that I did a few months back, where I built kind of almost like a best practice checklist or a template, which talks about just the complexity or the effort involved in it. So estimating the effort that an individual goes through in the cycle is important, but it also talks about the different combinations through which they have to work. For example, the application lifecycle states: has it been downloaded? Is it being installed? Is it opened? Is it being used? Is it in a closed state? And so on. Then what kind of a network states could it go through? Then what kind of a settings with the device and is it having? What kind of interruptions could occur and how the UI is arranged at the moment. So testing the same application over and over with each combination of what you see in each of these columns becomes very critical, because I need to see what happens when the application is open on an unsecured Wi-Fi, and let's say its rotation is a portrait mode, and I get an application notification at the time that pops up. What happens to my app? Does my app hang? Does my app close? Or does it go into a pause state? And so on. So expecting to see a result, but ensuring that we have a checklist that drives us through every scenario of it is very important. And I think that is where we really kind of put all these applications through this treadmill test of making sure that they run against all these environments. So Zenobia, the intent is just to show that as users, as application test engineers, we need to have such kind of templates handy, ready, and a strong awareness to be able to execute them. So back onto you. This is what you've shown, more like an expected output or some additional tools that one needs to have.
Yes, these are some of the expected outputs that come from the training that we have available to offer. As you can see here, we talked a little bit about core industry tools. Well, these are some of the other tools that also are key in terms of testing. Again, these are also open source resources that are used. REST Client and the poster tools, which are used to test endpoints. And just to explain briefly, that the endpoints help users do things on the web front, web applications that any person would normally do from the web application by just passing a command onto and then pushing those commands onto the device. As the chart that Karthik showed earlier, you might want to lock the device. You might want to send a command to the device to locate a lost device. Just depending on what type of service that you're providing in terms of the application and what that application is supposed to do. There are so many different ways to test, but these are some of the most popular outputs that are used in the industry. And we cover also XML and JSON, which are just BY requests that are sent, again, to give commands to the devices, to launch or download applications, or to open or lock email access, or to check and see if it is secure on a wireless network, to see what type of battery usage does it have left. These are all of the many, many, many functions that are tested on top of devices when it comes to applications. And we use those open source platforms or proprietary platforms in order to execute accessing, downloading those applications. For example, Android, you would download from the Play Store. And iOS devices, you would download applications from the iTunes. You learn to understand that with Android and open source, these are applications that you can get from anywhere. They can be developed by anyone. iOS or Apple has control over the applications that they will allow you to download to their phone. We also want to understand what is the world about when it comes to wireless. What are the hotspots and Wi-Fi, and what does it mean? Well, it also means security. If we are thinking about sitting in a network with our device in our hand and we're looking at getting emails from our company, we want to make sure that we can get them safe and securely. We want to understand also how to get to things and check on the back end of SQL basics, learning SQL commands, web applications, and test management tools. And of course, we did talk about the agile development methodology and how important that is as an expected output in today's market. So those are some of the things that are important to testers in terms of what they need to have in a skill set.
Awesome. Again, Zanubhi, awesome summary, because I don't believe that I or anyone else could have summarized the entire thing into such a short message. But you're absolutely right. What is the edge that one needs to have? What is it really looking at, be it on the profile or be it in a conversation when you're getting into these discussions? And I think great summary. Thank you so much. Now, I wanted to, do a quick time check. We are about 5-6 minutes away from the end. I wanted to see and display kind of the top 10, I said, while there are only 9 here though, but there was a testing defect. Luckily, it's not on mobile device yet. But I'm sure there are a lot of audience members who are attending through the mobile devices this entire session. Now, at a high level, these are the kind of questions that people come up with, and if we can take a quick peek into them, spend about a few seconds answering them, that would be great. Audience, meanwhile, please feel free to start putting your questions. I want to take some of the top questions, and between me and Zenobia, we'll address it for you. So, Zenobia, on to you. Some quick answers for us, please, on these.
Okay, sure. I'm looking for the questions. Yes, okay, here we are. So why do we need to focus approach on mobile app testing? Well, as we talked about, it is a trend that has not stopped. It is doubling each year in a growth rate of 50%. There is no end to the number of applications that are going to be developed, and it is in any market, from banking to medical. There is a mobile app for everything. So there are requirements that are needed. Before you get into learning mobile applications, what are the prerequisites for getting into it? Well, Karthik has shown you some of the tools that are needed in terms of having a spreadsheet or a diagram that we cover. But also there are basic tools, as I talked about earlier, in terms of skill sets, in terms of knowing what tools are available, in terms of learning the terminology so that you can communicate these when you are sitting there in the interview and you're confident and can command the conversation. Knowing what are the best practices for testing mobile applications. We touched on that briefly as we compared the waterfall methodology to the agile methodology, which is the most popular and in-demand methodology now bar none, in every type of computing job that there are out there right now. Are there more jobs in mobile application testing? Yes, it continues to be quite a trend in terms of growth rate. We did present a chart from Indeed.com which shows a strong upward trend of mobile application testing, but just be mindful that it's not just mobile app testing. There is mobile device management. There is the ability to manage mobile content. Anything that has to do with mobile devices in the corporate enterprise today is in high demand across any market, be it banking, be it retail, airline, food industry, and medical. Mobile application, mobile device testing is here to stay. Is it tough to be a mobile app test engineer? I would say that it is compatible, there's competition, and it's challenging. And from a personal standpoint, do I enjoy it? Very much. I have looked forward to getting into mobile application testing for quite some time. There is an unlimited amount of knowledge that you can gain in this field. Being a test engineer by trade, of course, you can move into any area, but I love the challenge of mobile device and mobile application management because it is unlimited in terms of the number of devices of all kinds, from not just phones, but also laptops. We're talking about iPads. We're talking about Windows phones. We're talking about Motorola devices. Any type of device that is handheld, even rugged devices in terms of retail as you go into Macy's or Sears. Yes, these are also considered mobile devices. So it is wide open. It's a very exciting place to be in terms of being a test engineer. Is the billing rate higher? In terms of compensation, of course there are different levels with different skill sets as well as length of time in the field. But just to give you a brief understanding, generally, and this is knowledge that is out there that you can research also if you care to, the average QA tester from experience of 6 months to a year, pay rates usually range between 25 and 35 an hour for contract and started around 40,000 a year. Those are the intermediate or beginning testers. Of course, salaries increase between 3 years up to 7 years or more. Degrees and continued education also play a large factor in the amount of salary that you can command, which can be upwards of 75, 85 to 100,000 a year, which includes automation, which can be very tough, but it is definitely doable. Once you study the tools that are out there and prepare yourself for it, the sky is the limit in terms of the type of compensation that you can command. So there are many tools to learn, yes, many tools to learn or master. The concepts remain the same. So my advice would be, don't become too overwhelmed with each and every new technology that comes out in terms of as you get advanced into, say, automation. You may learn QTP. You may learn more Selenium. You may learn Sahi. But the basic approach will be the same. You will learn what the code base is, and you will master what that code base is, and you will learn those automation tools and become an expert in that field with diligent study and commitment. And how can you practice this? Many of these applications you can leverage simply by starting the process as you have now, where you can get online training from experts such as us, where we can give you that information, and you can download these tools for test cycles, for trial periods, and learn these applications and master them yourself and become comfortable with them. So you can get this information from various ways. And so the 4 or 5 most critical skills to obtain. First, I would say it would be your command and your understanding of the terminology, the processes, and the methodologies. The next would also be understanding back end, or what it takes to build the application. So that would be your SQL database studies. I would say also learn to master open source technology. There's lots of open source tools. We present many of them here with ITE Learn. Those are critical. I would definitely put that in as a part of your learning toolbox. And finally, I would learn about test case writing and bug and defect management. Those would be my most critical things to put in your toolbox as a focused and experienced tester. And Karthik, I think you would agree that some of those are very critical as well.
Absolutely. And as you rightly said, we should not get overwhelmed with the concept of tools or automations, because tools is an addition to a skill. The skill, be it if I'm a carpenter or if I'm a mechanic, is the basic art of doing things. Tools is only helping me do that a little bit more efficiently. Unfortunately, what has happened in the industry is they believe that tool is going to do everything and learning the tool is the most important. But trying to gain these critical skills, these individual building blocks to get to the main art of doing things, tools will just add on to that whole thing. And what I did, Zenobia, is I started taking questions. But what happened with these questions is they are in big numbers. So varied questions, lots of them. I'm not sure if we'll be able to address everything right away, but what I did is I quickly copied everything and I put it on. If there are questions that I can answer quickly, I will. A few I'm going to leave it for you and so on. So there are questions which could have a lengthy answer, but what I'll do is we'll try and open up a little bit more discussion on a Facebook page or something where the members could come and interact more with us out there. How do you come up with the idea of an application? Not sure if I could address that right away. Want to know how can we get hands-on experience for mobile testing. So this is one thing that keeps coming up. You know, if it's a tool, they could buy a laptop, they could use an existing laptop and do it. So I think between the emulators, between trying to do it on web-based devices and having your own handheld devices, you could do a lot of it. You could get the basic crux of doing everything, and then you just have to wait to add new devices to your skill. Zenobia, please correct me as I go along, trying to quickly answer some of them.
Okay.
Do you have sprint planned for only testing? Again, could be a little wide questions. I'm going to skip this quickly and scan through. Example of testing an app with the example of an emulator. So one of the things you can do, Debanjan, is please visit itlearn.com. There are many free videos already that are existing in the area that you could look at. Let me quickly guide you there. That will give you some good information there. Are we going to go cover automation in depth? I believe yes. To what depth we will pursue as we move along. But again, as we say, automation in this case is a small portion of the entire gamut of testing mobile application devices.
Yes, that's correct. It is a small part. Automation is. I can say that the demand for mobile testing devices or applications is large, and emulators as well as handheld devices are used. But it is you begin with a manual platform and move into automation. Many companies have yet to move into strongly automation. If you master the manual testing, you will be quite successful.
Perfect. Yeah. So, and that's the kind of message that I've been trying to pass along as well in the same. So yes, this video will get uploaded. You could visit this website, visit itlearn.com to watch the video directly, or if you're one of the subscribers on YouTube, you will get access to it. More details, we would love to. We will come up with the day 1, day 2 of the training sessions where we will walk you through at length on the specific topics and how it's going to be working out. But meanwhile, just to give you an idea, here is the existing content with about 12 odd videos on various aspects of mobile application testing that is already there. What we are looking to do is have Zenobia join along with me in adding to this existing skill or existing collection of videos that we have. Let's see. Recruiters will be looking for specific mobile app tester, or this mobile app testing is an additional knowledge. Praveen, if I understand right, yes. Recruiters will look for specific keywords in it. So when they do the search, they'll try and drill down saying that mobile app testing, where do we get candidates there? Then they will start adding and throwing more keywords like an Android or an iOS or an emulator and so on.
That's correct, Karthik. If I could just add, they would
Sure.
address these needs. They would cover things such as they would look for Bluetooth. If you had Bluetooth, if you had web interface tools, testing experience, testing USB and Bluetooth audio stream, or if you had experience using software such as Microsoft Test Manager or SharePoint. So yes, they do look for those key things.
Perfect. And in fact, that also says that having these, knowing what these keywords are really well and having them present in your resume talks a lot about if you're getting screened at that level or not. And that is our starting point in the career there. So again, emulator and real devices, yes, there's nothing that comes close to actually being a real device, but sometimes if you do not have an access to a device, either because you're in a different location or you don't have the hardware in front of you, emulators are trying to emulate the entire thing by getting closer. But again, it's not exactly the same experience. Again, many more questions. I'm not sure if we have enough time to really get into them. I'm sure most of these are answered in what we've done so far. Let's see if I can pick up anything. There's a lot about automation. When we get into our day 1, day 2 of the live training, which will be the free sessions, you will get to experience more of what we're going to be doing there. Let's see if there's any other last few questions that I could quickly get answered. What is the project length for mobile app testing? So we're looking at adding another 15 to 20 hours of content. It will all depend on the kind of projects that we will pick and how we're going to go about execute it. What we're looking to do is add to what is out here already and take it to the next level. All right. Mobile gaming app testing also, not sure. So how about this question, Zenobia? Are we considering mobile game app testing?
Yes, that is I would say, a fun area to be in is mobile gaming application testing. And there is a demand for that. I can say from my own experience, there is not a large demand. The compensation rate is not as high as skilled testers who are looking to test devices in, let's just say, more enterprise environments and less for the gaming world. But there is a market out there, and we can consider adding that gaming application testing mobile devices. Those applications, of course, are available, and they are tested all the time.
I like it how you put it as saying it's more like fun testing, not necessarily a skill testing and so on. So I think the message is simple. There is more to it than just mobile games and simple apps. And that is where your real, so that is where it will make you required and wanted in the market. And you're not one among a gazillion people who have the other basic skills.
The testing mobile app in Android, iOS platforms are same. No, there is a huge variation in the difference between Android, iOS, Windows, let's just say those applications. They are all quite different. For example, Android is an open source platform, and iOS is proprietary.
Right. There is definitely a lot of difference. And performance testing on mobile apps?
For performance applications, we will consider that as we look more into the coursework.
Okay.
There is quite a need for that, but we are going to look more into performance testing.
But we would definitely cover at least the basic aspects of how the applications are going to be performing under the simple pretext, at least, of operations, right? But are we going to do very focused performance testing? To what extent? It'll depend. But again, the core skills, probably not. All right, I think that's about it. We definitely did about a 60-minute session. I wanted to try and keep it shorter. I hope, audience, we could address your core expectations of what you wanted out of the session. And between Zenobia and I, we could answer some of your questions. We would love to continue to connect. Please get to us onto our Facebook fan page. It is itelearn.com/ sorry, it's facebook.com/itelearn. You could connect with us there, and we could take up more questions going forward. We will invite you as we move forward to the live webinars we will be conducting in the next couple of weeks. The schedule and the invites will be sent so you can start interacting with us there. So please join us on Facebook, interact with us. We would love to take your questions up there. Thank you so much, Zenobia. Special thanks to you. You made it. I know you had such a busy schedule. We had to work through this really well. Thank you so much for being here.
Thank you. It's been my pleasure.
All right. Thank you, everyone. Thank you, entire audience. Over 100 people joined. It's a pleasure. And people who are watching the video, thank you so much for viewing this. Thank you all. Bye then.